My father had an old record player, one of those with a spindle in the middle where you could put a whole stack of records on, and they would drop and play, one right after the other. Throughout my growing up years, I'd go to the Winston-Salem Public Library, check out a dozen LPs, and sit for hours just listening and studying the album covers. One of my favorite sections in the record library was the comedy section, which introduced me to Bob Newhart, the Smothers Brothers, George Carlin, Flip Wilson, Richard Pryor. Listening to them over and over, I learned to tell a story and to deliver a punchline, though I think I'd probably go over better with a laugh track like they had. Anyway, I remember one comedy bit from those dozens of comedy records. I don't remember the specific comedian or even the rest of the routine, just the catchphrase. "Oh no, I forgot how to breathe." It was delivered with exaggerated surprise and mock panic. "Oh no, I forgot how to breathe." And it got me every time because of the sheer absurdity. Breathing is just something one does, thoughtlessly for the most part. It's like blinking your eyes or yawning. We can breathe in our sleep, for crying out loud. It isn't something you forget how to do. Or is it? I happened across a book this week, a New York Times bestseller entitled Breath by James Nestor, published in May of this year. In it, Nestor explores the science, the physiology, and the absolute importance of breathing. In the book's introduction, Nestor tells of an experience. He was at a difficult place in his life, a bit of a rough patch in his physical and mental health. He was recovering from pneumonia, mildly depressed, in a deep rut with work, and had barely enough energy to get off the couch. His doctor said to him, "A breathing class could help." Skeptical, but in the sense of, "I'll try anything, what could it hurt?" Nestor attended the class. He inwardly critiqued the instructor and the participants, who looked like they spent their time in rooms filled with incense and granola. But despite his initial skepticism, Nestor found the experience, in his words, life-changing. The discipline: slow, deep inhale through the nose, long, slow exhale, in and out. Focus on the breath caused him to be intentional about something he had paid no attention to or had taken for granted. By the end of his first hour-long session, he was drenched. He had sweated through his clothes, though the room was only 68 degrees. The instructor explained that the breathing technique released old, stale energy, accumulated stress, and toxins. Nestor just knew that he felt better. A few more sessions, he was sleeping better. Tension was released from his neck and his shoulders. His depression eased. In short, he had forgotten how to breathe. And taking time to be intentional about it was restorative. With breathing, there is an inhalation. Air is drawn into the lungs, oxygenating the blood, which flows throughout the body, keeping the tissues alive. And there is an exhalation. Deoxygenated blood returns to the lungs. CO2 is expelled. Both processes, inhalation and exhalation, are, of course, equally essential. It's why both exist. Too much or too little air can both leave us in distress. And in God's wisdom, our exhalation is life-giving to plants. They take in the CO2 we release, and they emit the oxygen that we take in. We might think of it as the entire planet breathing in concert. So why the class in Breathing 101 today? And what does it have to do with our worship or our biblical texts for this morning? Well, today is two things at once. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving, so really this entire week is a time for focusing in particular upon our gratitude, pausing to be intentional in our reflection upon life's many blessings, all that God has given, from life itself to the love of friends and family, to the beauty and wonder of nature, to the comforts, the pleasures, and the freedoms that we enjoy. The list goes on and on and on. Perhaps different for each of us, but our disciplined gratitude is life-giving and important. More on that in a minute. But in meaningful, needful connection with our gratitude and thanksgiving, today is also our congregation's Stewardship Dedication Sunday. It's a day when we think about Grace Presbyterian Church and our work in this community and in the world, and we individually or as families pledge commitments of both time and treasure to that work. It's holy work, I think. Food placed upon the tables of the hungry, compassion offered to the hurting, spiritual comfort offered to the anxious and distressed, consolation extended to the grieving, advocacy lifted up on behalf of the oppressed. Collectively, we can name all of these things as generosity. Generosity of time, generosity of resources, generosity of spirit. Our disciplined generosity is also life-giving and important. So I want to make the connection to breathing. Gratitude is the inhale. It fuels our lives. It lifts our spirits. It makes us mindful and appreciative of all that brings us joy. Gratitude is the realization, I am enough, I have enough. My needs are provided, my life is full, my cup is full. And generosity is the exhale. Mindful of the world's need, happy to share our enough with someone who doesn't have enough. My cup overflows. I have enough time to share, enough love to share, enough money to share, enough wisdom to share. And if I don't have all of these things, surely I have some of these things. Surely you have some of these things. Gratitude, generosity. Gratitude, generosity. Inhale, exhale, focus on the breath. Now, I spoke at the outset of what happens when one forgets how to breathe. The resulting anxiety and tension, depression, ill health, distress in body and spirit. If it gets bad enough, maybe, like Nestor, a breathing class could help. We're in a bad place as a nation right now. We're divided. We're suspicious. We're angry. We're resentful. We point fingers, we call names, we blame and shame each other. We don't cooperate, we obstruct. We've grown ugly. I see just one way forward. Collectively, we need breathing lessons. And in a breathing class, you don't focus upon the other people's breathing. You focus upon your own, your breath, your health, your spirit. So let us prophesy to the breath, so to speak. There are dozens of biblical texts on both gratitude and generosity, on thanksgiving and on giving, but I've chosen just two. Let's start with the inhale. Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. A joyful noise. Have you ever received a gift that was so perfect, so surprising, so humbling or overwhelming that a response just leaped out of you? A gasp, a laugh, an exclamation, a spontaneous expression of gratitude and delight that you simply couldn't keep in. A joyful noise. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into His presence with singing, with a gratitude that will not be kept in. Why? Because God is God, the psalmist writes. It is He that made us, and we are His. And those are not mere words. Taken together, they mean, I exist. I belong. I'm beloved. I can hardly believe that I'm here, able to love, able to wonder, able to touch, to see, to taste. How in the world do we come to take life for granted? If you find yourself doing so, I recommend a wonder walk. Notice the birds, the sun on that maple tree that makes it look like it's on fire, the camellia bush that's improbably blooming in late November, and think, I get to be here. And for each thing that you see that's a gift, a marvel, make a joyful noise. Thank you. Thank you. Enter God's gates with thanksgiving and God's courts with praise. Give thanks to God and bless God's name. Why? Because God's ego needs to be stroked? Because God has need of our gratitude? No. Because the practice of intentional gratitude lends joy to our lives. How can we focus upon what we lack when we're busy celebrating all that we've been given? Gratitude is as essential to our spiritual health as inhalation is to our physical health. Gratitude is how we recognize and realize the richness of our lives, not in material things, but in everything that matters. I exist, I belong, I'm beloved, and I'm blessed. And as we contemplate the richness of our lives, we turn to generosity. As to those who in the present age are rich, the writer of 1 Timothy counsels, command them not to be haughty or to set their hopes upon the uncertainty of riches, but upon God who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, generous and ready to share, thus storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of the life that is really life. Take hold of the life that is really life. Here's what I believe. I believe that generosity brings us closer to God. It allows us to experience the very nature of God, whose giving, in the words of the hymn, knows no ending. Deep gratitude and deep generosity. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Focus on the breath. And what begins to happen? I become focused on my breathing and not on everyone else's. And my spiritual muscles begin to unclench. It's simply impossible to rejoice and be mad, to be thankful and resentful, to be generous and to be ugly, to be kind and to be mean-spirited. If you want to be alive, to take hold of the life that is really life, be grateful, be generous. Be grateful, be generous. Breathe deeply of God. And all of this is not some self-help mumbo-jumbo. Rather, it embodies just what God said to Abram in Genesis 12. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will give so that you may give. I will fill your cup so that it will overflow. I will give you abundant reason for gratitude so that you may have abundant capacity for generosity. You will be enough, and you will have enough. Now I want to close with a word about Grace Presbyterian Church and what I love about it. What I love about you. This is a church that understands in its very DNA what it is to practice what I have just preached. You've seemingly always understood it. I want to reflect upon 2020 and upon congregational life in the midst of a pandemic. If there were ever a year in which we might inventory what has been taken away, what we lack, what we've missed or missed out on, it's 2020. We've been unable to gather as a congregation for 8 months. Our facility has been, for the most part, closed. Parts of the building are beginning to smell a little bit musty from disuse. The playground behind the church has started a return to nature of a sort, a little bumper crop of mushrooms and poplar saplings sprouting up through the mulch. These are our conditions right now, but they are temporary conditions. But despite these things, in many ways, as we draw to the final months of 2020, this church, is more alive than ever. Why? Gratitude and generosity, we have never stopped breathing. In the midst of a pandemic, we've been thankful for all we have, not resentful of all we've missed. In the midst of a pandemic, we have shared more than ever. Food and funds for ECHO. Thousands of dollars in assistance to both Honduras and to Palestine. Thousands of dollars through the pastor's discretionary fund that have provided rent assistance or food assistance to neighbors in need. A new record for contributions through the crop walk. A thriving program of education and shared study online and worship services attended by our local membership, by old friends now living elsewhere, and by people across the entire nation and across the world. We at Grace have been richly blessed. We have therefore been able to be the blessing that we are called to be. This church, our church, has not forgotten how to breathe. So this Thanksgiving week, we are grateful, deeply so. And this Stewardship Dedication week, we are generous, deeply so. We breathe, we live, we rejoice. Thanks be to God. Amen.